Hare Krishna. So, welcome everyone on our Tuesday evening Bhagavad Gita discussion. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinim Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि श्री गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Okay, Hare Krishna. Once again, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining in our Tuesday evening discussion. So last time we were discussing Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, text number 11 through 15 we discussed, where Lord Krishna is explaining about the principle of yajna, the importance of performing the yajna. As a human being, it's our responsibility, it's our duty to perform the yajna. And the reason for performing the yajna is to pay off our debts, to show our gratitude. And yajna is simply doesn't mean the fire sacrifice, like doing the homa or what we call as havan, right? Commonly known as havan in some part of India. So it's not just a fire sacrifice, but the principle of yajna is to offer our due respects to the Lord and to the various in charges of these natural resources. So in that sense, our every activity should be like a yajna. And by performing that activity, by performing the work in the spirit of yajna, one does not bind in karmic reaction. So performing our japa, that is also a yajna. Offering the bhoga to the Lord, that's also a yajna. So whatever activity we do to show our gratitude to the Lord, that's a yajna. That's the principle of yajna. Now, moving forward, after Lord Krishna explained this principle of yajna, now text number 16, Lord Krishna summarizes this concept of yajna and the importance of yajna. So Lord Krishna says, Evam pravartitam chakram na anuvartyati ehayah aghayur indriya ramo mogham partha sajivati. Mogham partha sajivati. He is living in vain. So, evam pravartitam chakram. So, one who does not follow this cycle, chakra, cycle, the cycle of sacrifice, which are established by the Vedas, certainly such person leads a life full of sin and living only for the satisfaction of one's senses. Indriya Ramo. So he is just living for his own personal sense enjoyment. He is basically living a life of sin. And such person is just living in vain. He's just wasting his life. So the question which we raised last time is, if somebody says, oh, I'm a very good person, I don't accept God, I don't believe in God, but I am a very good person. I don't harm anybody. So isn't that okay? So here Lord Krishna is very clearly saying somebody who is not accepting this system of yajna, who does not believe in the existence of the higher authorities, in the existence of the Supreme Lord, and somebody who is just trying to be good in this world without offering his due homage to the higher authorities, he is just living for his personal sense enjoyment. That person is leading a sinful life. So whole life is wasted. Generally, when we say he is committing sin, right? Such person is just committing sin. People say, how is it sin? I am not committing any sin. I am a lawful, obedient citizen of the country or of the state. Because people's definition of sin is relative. There is a difference in sin versus crime, and we have discussed that many times. What is the difference between sin versus crime? Anybody want to answer that question? What is the difference in sin versus crime?
Crime is what is recognized by the law of the local region,
Mm-hmm.
uh, whereas sin is an offense defined by the scriptures.
Okay, very good. So generally, crime is considered something which is done legally wrong when we are not following the rules of the country or of the state. That is considered as a crime. But sin is considered something wrong or something which is religiously wrong, right? Which is wrong as per the directions of scriptures. So if the government is acting based on the scriptural principle, at that time sin and crime are same. Sin and crime harmonize because the government is following based on the scriptural injunctions, and the rules which they are making is to follow the instructions of scriptures. So in that way sin and crime are same. But if the government is not following the scriptural injunctions and they are just making some rules, some laws, following just those laws may not be that somebody is not committing sin. For example, government is saying performing or abortion is legal. So abortion is not considered crime, but as per scriptural understanding, it's a grievous sin. Same way, the local states and the local countries, the different countries may have rules for cow slaughter. They are thinking cow slaughter is legal in our state or in our country. But again, as per the direction of scriptures, cow slaughter is a grievous sin. So, in that way, there is a relative definition of sin versus crime. And people go on, keep doing some immoral things. They don't think this is something wrong. And they think if you don't feel like doing it, then don't do it. If you feel it's wrong, then don't do it. If you don't feel it is wrong, then do it. Right? And then on the t-shirts also there is a very famous check mark sign. Just do it. If you feel like doing, then do it. So people just go based on their own whimsical ideas, not following any direction of authorities. So Krishna is saying somebody who is just living for their own sense enjoyment without considering the scriptural injunctions, they are living a sinful life. So when people want to engage in sense gratification without considering scriptures, that is sinful. That is vikarma. And in scripture, there is a concession to act for sense gratification, right? That is a karma kanda system. Okay, you want sense enjoyment, okay, you act in this particular way. So in scripture also, there is a provision for sense enjoyment, sense gratification. If somebody is seeking sense enjoyment, at least by following the guidance of scriptures, then he is also considered as a religious person. For example, the demigods, even Indra, let's say, right? Indra also do sense gratification, but he is seeking sense gratification by following the guidance of scriptures, by guidance of the Supreme Lord. Whereas the demons, the asuras, they break all the guidelines or the guidelines of the scriptures, and they want to commit sense gratification without following any guidelines. So that is the difference between demigods and demons, sura and asura. So suras or the devatas are the ones who are also doing sense gratification, but by following the directions of the Supreme Lord, by following the guidelines of scriptures. Whereas asuras, they do not follow any guidelines. So we discussed, right, what is really pap and punya very briefly in the last session. Anything, activity which is performed to please the Supreme Lord, activity performed to please Krishna, that is punya. And any activity which displease Krishna, that is pap. Somebody may be thinking, oh, I'm a very moral person, I'm committing this very moral activity. But if this is not pleasing Krishna, then it is pap only. So text 16, Lord Krishna defines, if somebody want to lead a meaningful life, they need to follow the principle of yajna. They need to live by the direction of the scriptures. Now, text number 17 to 24. These are very interesting verses. How Krishna now takes on further to say, perform your activity without attachment to result, and then act for setting an example for others. So be a right role model. And then Krishna gives certain examples also. He will give the example of Janak Maharaj. Then he quotes the example of himself also. So we will discuss in that way. Now, text number 17, Lord Krishna says, but for one who take pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization, and who is satisfied in self only, who is fully satiated, for him there is no duty. So here, very interesting turnaround what Krishna is saying. So in the previous verses, Krishna is saying everybody should perform the principle of yajna. Now here, Krishna is saying somebody who is fully satisfied, right? Who has no other interest, who is taking pleasure in the self, जो आत्माराम है. So whose whole life is meant for self-realization, who is working for self-realization. For him, there is no duty. So Krishna is trying to say, because Arjuna, how this third chapter started, Arjuna had said, I want to engage in cultivation of knowledge. Why you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare? Right? You said knowledge is better, work with intelligence, buddhi yoga. So let me leave everything and go to forest and cultivate knowledge. But Krishna says, no, you cannot just avoid performing your duties. You perform your duties. If somebody does not perform his duty and in his heart he is desiring for the sense enjoyment or looking for the objects of senses, that person is a hypocrite. So here Krishna says the qualification, who is fully qualified to give up all duties, somebody who is completely on the process of self-realization, who has no other interest, who take pleasure in the self only. For him, there is no other duty. So one who is satisfied internally. Such person is no duty bound. He is free. But as long as we take something from someone, we are expected to give something in return. Like for example, parents take care of the children, and then children taking care of their parents when they grow up, right? So somebody has done something for us, and then we are supposed to pay back to them. Same way, the human perform yajna to give back to the devatas, because we are taking all the natural resources. So in that way, such a person who is completely self-satisfied, who has no other desires from anybody, who does not need anything from anyone, such person has no need to perform any other activity. But further, Lord Krishna tells in text 18, a self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in discharge of his prescribed duty. So he is not doing any duty to gain something. So he has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his duties, nor he has any reason not to perform such work. So very interesting. Krishna says, if a person is really fixed in knowledge, a self-realized person, he has no reason to not do his duty, right? He will still do his duty, and nor has he any need to depend on any other living entity. So Krishna is twisting the words and say such person has no reason to not perform his duty. So if you are thinking that you are very elevated, you are situated in right knowledge, still there is no reason for you to quit your work, to quit your duty. So because such person is self-satisfied, he does not need anything from anybody. First of all, that's first thing. Like the brahmanas, they give knowledge and then they take charity. They perform yajna and they take charity, and the brahmanas give charity also. So dana, dakshina, pathan, pathan, yajan, yajan, these are the activities of a brahmana. So they are doing some puja, they take some charity from others, and they also give charity. If the brahmanas receive lot of charity after performing a yajna, they do not keep everything with them. Actually, they further distribute. Even let's say in the time of um, ancient kings also, if the king has performed a very elaborate yajna, and after the performance of yajna the king gives a lot of charity to the brahmanas don't just take everything and they return it back to the king, that you are the rightful honor, you just keep everything for the welfare of all the citizens. For example, when Lord Ramachandra, he performed a yajna, the Ashwamedh yajna, and he gave lot of charity to the Brahmanas. But the Brahmanas, they returned it back to the Lord, that you please keep it for the rightful use of this whole property. So generally, that is a mutual reciprocation. So a self-realized person has no purpose to fulfill in discharge of his duty. The brahmanas are not like greedy that, oh, if we do this puja, we will be receiving this much donation, this much dakshina from yajman. So if the brahmana is doing for that purpose, he is not really actually performing his duty. So a self-realized person has no desire to attain something, and in that way there is no reason to not do one's activity also. So generally, if we see, there is horizontal obligations and there is vertical obligation. Horizontal obligation is our obligations towards different aspects in the society. We have obligations towards parents, we have obligation towards other social circle, we have obligations towards our state or country, we have obligation towards our occupation. So in that way, we have all these horizontal obligations. But while doing these horizontal obligation, we need to satisfy that vertical obligation, which is towards the Supreme Lord. And when we have no horizontal obligation, we can focus more on the vertical obligation to develop our relationship with the Supreme Lord. So by performing the work with detachment, one will attain the Supreme Lord. So now we can see, we can put the self-realized person also into two categories in the history, right? In the history, all these wonderful devotees who have happened, we can put them into two categories. One who continued their worldly duties after attaining the transcendental platform also, like Prahalad Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj, Ambrish Maharaj, Prithu Maharaj, Vibhishan, Janak Maharaj. So even though they were completely situated in transcendence, Prahlad Maharaj had personal darshan of Lord Nrsingadev. Dhruva Maharaj had personal darshan of Lord Vishnu. Ambarish Maharaj, he was such a wonderful devotee. He engaged all his senses in serving the Supreme Lord. Prithu Maharaj, he is considered as the Ansha avatar of the Lord. He performed so many yagyas and so many devotional activities. Bhivishan, again, the personal associate of Lord Ramachandra. Janak Maharaj, who is the father of Mother Sita, father-in-law of Lord Ramachandra. So they were all these personalities. They were highly self-realized. They were completely situated on transcendental platform. But still, they continued to perform their worldly duties. So one can say, okay, they were doing like the karma yogis also, even in externally, they continued to perform their duties. And internally, their minds were completely attached to the Supreme Lord. And on the other side, there is second category of self-realized people like Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, right? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself also showed by his own example, Shankaracharya, Madhvendra Puri. So they rejected their worldly duties and accepted the renounced order of life. So they completely renounced the work itself, karma sannyas. So they were both internally and externally, with their body and mind, they were engaged in devotion to the Lord. So in this verse, what Krishna is telling to Arjuna is that both options exist for self-realized people. So self-realized person, he does not have any desire to gain something, and he has no need or no reason to give up his activity also. So now in the next verses, Lord Krishna is indicating to Arjuna or recommending to Arjuna what he should be doing. Okay, so text 19 onwards starts the really important section of this chapter, to act for setting an example for the world. Be the leader to drive the change. Be the right teacher, not the cheater. Okay, so text number 19. Tasmad asakta satatam karyam karma samachara asakto hi acharan karma param apnoti purushah. Therefore, without being attached to the fruit of activity, one should act as a matter of duty. For by working without attachment, one attains the supreme. Okay, so very interesting verse here. This is similar to what we had discussed in 247, where Lord Krishna says you have the right to perform your activity, but you don't have the right or the you don't have the control on the karma, on the result. Don't get attached to the result and don't get attached to not doing your duty. So in this verse, what Krishna is saying, so just without being attached to the fruit of activity, one should work just as a matter of duty. And in that way, one attains the Supreme Lord. So we cannot just say, okay, I will give up all my activity because of frustration from the work. That I have really frustrated. I have tried so much and it's not working out. I'm frustrated, so I give up this activity. So frustration with material life does not lead to spiritual life. Okay, very important point to understand and remember. Frustration with material life does not lead to spiritual life. And the attraction for spiritual life, that need to be tested and demonstrated with steady commitment. And we have to show our consistency, our commitment in the process. That will prove our attraction for the spiritual life. If we, for small reasons, for small discomforting situation, we say, okay, oh, I better today take a break. I don't want to do this activity. It means we are failing. We are not showing, we are not demonstrating our steady commitment. So importance of engaging in our activities without being attached to the results. And we had discussed earlier in 247, without attachment to the result, how one will say, how can I perform my activity? Because that is my inspiration, or when I have some results to look for, then I'm inspired to do something. But if I am not looking for the result, if I don't want to be attached to the result, then what is my inspiration or encouragement to do the work? So why we should act for certain activity? Not for the result, but doing that activity for our purification. That in the process, I will get that purification. That is my goal. So doing the activity without attachment to the result. Now, if one is living in the city or living in a countryside or in the forest area, it does not matter for such person, because in both situation, if somebody is working without any attachment, doesn't matter where you stay. So better to stay in the city and perform the duty by being detached. Now again the question comes here, if somebody claims, I want to be just a good citizen, I don't want, or I am not religious person, spiritual person, but I just want to be a good person, law abiding person, is that enough? So let's say, what are your inputs or any comments on that?
Yeah, I would say, Prabhuji, based on the previous definition of sin and crime, not committing a crime alone is not sufficient, then, right?
Yes. So even though somebody is
But
not committing the
law-abiding
crime,
citizen, we are saying, we are not committing crime, but I think
so somebody may say, I am a very law abiding citizen, I don't want to harm anybody, and I am a very peaceful person. So that is not enough. Here Krishna is saying, you just perform your duty without attachment. That is more important. See, Arjuna was saying, I want to give up this duty of fighting, and I want to be a very peaceful person. Krishna is saying, no, for you, you perform your duty without attachment. Why? Because even if somebody claim, I want to be a peaceful person, that is not enough. For example, you are walking with your father. Okay, a child is walking with his father, and some gundas come, some uh, these bad people come and they start to harass the father. Now, will the child keep standing? Will the son keep standing there and watching? That, oh, no, 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 I want to be very peaceful person. I don't want to harm anybody. Let me just stay here quietly. Will that be acceptable? So in that situation, it's the duty of the son to protect his father if somebody is trying to harass him. The same way situation of Arjuna here, right? Arjuna is saying, I don't want to fight in this war. I want to be very peaceful person. Why to fight? But Krishna is saying, no, this is your duty. And the Supreme Father is Krishna. When Father himself is saying that you do this thing, then you better act to please the Father. So another example is, now if you are a law-abiding citizen, right? If a soldier, in the regular situation also, if a soldier, let's say in India, is on the border and the other country has attacked on the border, Will the soldier say, now I am trying to understand Bhagavad Gita and I don't want to fight? I will just maybe go away from here. Better to just go away from here and not do my duty. No, so in that particular situation, your duty is to protect the border from the attacking elements. Another example, a very general example to understand is you are at your home and the thieves come inside your home and they're trying to steal. So in that situation, will you say, oh, let them do whatever they want to do? I want to be very uh, ahinsavadi person. I want to be a non-violent person. I don't want to harm anybody. Or better, let me help them. Take whatever you want. Here, take this also. So in if somebody is trying to attack on your property, trying to harm you in certain way, it's your duty to protect in that situation. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, right now, even though you may be thinking that I am situated at the level of Jnana Yoga, but still you need to act to perform your duty and just do your duty without looking for results. Even though you are qualified for Jnana Yoga, but you do Karma Yoga. The next verse, Krishna gives example. So text number 20. Krishna says, Karmaneva hi samsiddhim आस्थिता जनकादयः लोकसंग्रहम् एवापि sampashyam kartumarhasi. So here Krishna is giving the example of Janak Maharaj. So kings such as Janak Adaya, there have been kings like Janak who attained perfection solely by performance of prescribed duty. Karmanna eva hi samsiddhim, by just performing their duties, their worldly duties, they attained perfection, siddhi. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people, loka sangraham evapi, just for the purpose of educating the people in general, you should perform your work. Because Krishna is saying to Arjuna, see, you are a kshatriya, you are a warrior, you need to participate in this war. If you run away from this war, what is the example it's going to set for others? Other people also can later on take this excuse, oh, Arjuna has left the war, left his duty, so we can also leave. So no, Krishna is saying, see, Janak Maharaj, there have been kings like Janak Maharaj who also just performed their worldly duties and they attained perfection. Some siddhim. So here the word siddhi is used. Siddhi is not just some mystic power that somebody can disappear at one place and appear at another place. Somebody can catch something in the air, some vibhuti or something, or somebody can become lighter than the lightest and heavier than the heaviest. So not like that siddhi. Siddhi is attaining the goal of life, the perfection of life. And what is the perfection of life? To attain the Supreme Lord, to go back to the kingdom of the Supreme Lord. That is the real perfection of life. So people like Janak Maharaj have attained such perfection by performing their duties. And they just did their duty without any desire for results or without any attachment to anything. There is a very famous story, actually, two of them I can quote here. Janak Maharaj. Janak Maharaj used to have many great learned scholars in his assembly. Ashtavakra is very great sage. He will come in the assembly of Janak Maharaj and he will give pravachan. He will speak on the philosophy, on the Vedas, Upanishads. And there is a Yajnavalak Rishi also. He will also come attend this pravachan. So Ashtavakra, he was once speaking on a very deep philosophy on the Upanishad. Janak Maharaj will come in the assembly and he will listen. Yajnavalak Rishi and many other sages, they will come and attend to the discourse. So once Ashtavakra was there, ready to start the class, Yajnavalak Rishi and other sages have assembled. Janak Maharaj has not come yet. And Yajnavalak told Ashtavakra, that you please start. See, we are the one who are actually listening to the philosophy of these Upanishads and all. Janak Maharaj, he is a worldly man, he is a king, he has many things to do and he has a lot of things to enjoy. So better you start. He will come when he has time. And Ashtavakra, so Yajnavalak Rishi was thinking, we are the real audience. Janak Maharaj to aate hain time pass ke liye when he has time. So Ashtavakra said, no, he is the judgment, let him come. Then I will speak. So later on, Janak Maharaj came and then Ashtavakra started speaking. And in one such assembly, one occasion it happened that the fire erupted out at the palace of Janak Maharaj. And Janak Maharaj is sitting here in the assembly listening to the pravachan. Soldier came, the Sainik came and told Janak Maharaj that fire has erupted out in the palace. Janak Maharaj did not pay any attention and he kept listening to the discourse. Again, another person came after a few minutes. So this fire is approaching close by, it's spreading very wide. Janak Maharaj completely again detached, no attachment. What is happening? Oh, my palace is burning away and all that. He was kept quiet and still kept listening. Another few minutes passed by, another soldier came. Oh, the fire is getting more and more bigger and it's just approaching here also. So at that time, Yajnavalak Rishi, he said, oh, this fire is coming to the quarters where we are staying. Our kamandlu, our dhoti and all is there and that will be all burnt up. So better we should go and try to protect our belongings. And Ashtavakra that time told, see, Janak Maharaj, his whole palace and all this property is burning away and he is completely detached. And you consider yourself as a very knowledgeable person, a learned person, and you are still attached to your little dhoti. That let me go and protect my little dhoti and other belongings. And Janak Maharaj's disposition was, he was saying, see, when I am sitting with my guru and receiving that knowledge from my guru, that is the biggest wealth for me. All the other wealth has no meaning. So Janak Maharaj was like completely detached and he was a very, very learned person, complete vairagya in his heart, even though externally he is performing his duties. And Janak Maharaj, at the end of his life, as he is going to the spiritual world, right? He is taken to the spiritual world, and Janak Maharaj passed by from the close by from the hellish region. He is when he is passing by, and in the hell there are so many suffering souls, and a breeze which has touched Janak Maharaj, that breeze when it came in the hellish region, all these suffering souls, they got a moment of relaxation. They got little peace from their suffering condition, and they were all crying, please save us, please save us, please save us. And Janak Maharaj heard all these cryings coming up and he asked Yamaraj, what are all these cries? Who are all these people who are calling out for help? Please protect us, please save us. And Yamaraj told, these are all the people, the sinful people who are suffering in hell because a little breeze which has touched your body has come. Because of that, they got so much of relaxation, so much of peace from their suffering condition. So Janak Maharaj was so compassionate. He thought how to relieve these people from their suffering situation. And Yamaraj told, if you give the result of your one holy name, chanting of one holy name, if you give the result of this to these people, they will all be released from this sinful situation. And Janak Maharaj chanted one name and said, I award the result of this holy name to all these suffering souls. And just by the result of one holy name, all these suffering souls were released from that sinful situation, from that hellish condition. So that is the power of a pure devotee. So here Krishna is quoting the example of Janak Maharaj, that Janak Maharaj was such a self-realized person. It's not that he just gave away everything and went to the forest. He continued performing his duty. And then text 21. A very important verse. Maybe everybody should try to memorize this verse. Yad yad acharati sreshthas tat tad evataro janah sayat pramanam kurute lokas tad anuvartate. So what is Krishna telling? Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standard he sets by exemplary act, all the world pursues. So if we have to take a take home message, right, one golden statement from this verse, what Krishna is telling is, be a role model, be the teacher, not the cheater. So you be the role model and set a right example for the world. So Krishna here is again talking about the principle that we cannot act in self-concerned way. We have to consider what is the effect of my activity on others also, and then behave in that exemplary way, right? So our action should not be only concerned about ourselves. Oh, if I do this, what will be the result of this on me? But we should be concerned about that if I act in this particular way, what will be the effect of this on others, and behave in exemplary way. See, if we consider 50 years ago, 100 years ago, who were the role models in the society? The social leaders, the political leaders, they were like the role models. And they were striving for others' welfare. Like all these freedom fighters, let's say, in 1930s to 1947, that freedom fight in India. So they were like the role models. Mahatma Gandhi, Bhagat Singh, Chandrasekhar Azad. So these were the role model of people, and people shaped their behavior according to their role model. So 50 to 100 years back, these role models were working for the welfare of other people, for the welfare of society. And actually, from the viewpoint of scriptures, the role model should be spiritually inclined, or at least be in the mode of goodness. In that way, they will try to elevate other people, not degrade them. But if we see today in the current society, who are the role models, right? Whom do people consider their role model? Some Hollywood star, Bollywood star, some sports person, or some business tycoon. They are like the role model. And these kind of role model have no intention for welfare of society. They have their own agenda. They want to just earn money, and for that purpose they will do anything, they will say anything. And we see all these Bollywood, Hollywood stars, they are selling some product. Are they really concerned about the welfare of others? No, not at all. They are concerned about how much money they can make. They are ready to sell anything. Even something which is harmful for others, they are ready to sell those also. So these role models have no concern for others' welfare. And people learn the wrong things also from these role models. Like somebody is smoking in the film scene or something, and they show it like, oh, I am a some big shot here. All these people, the so-called role models, they are promoting the wrong activities, wrong habits, the smoking, drinking, illicit relations. The these Bollywood actresses and all wearing the exposing clothes, short clothes, they think of we are being bold. Actually, it's not bold, it's shamelessness. If something is to be considered bold, means you do some bold act which is very befitting for the society, which is elevating the society. Like the freedom fighters, right? They were bold, they were acting for the welfare of society. So if wearing exposing cloth is considered as bold, then later on somebody wearing very modest cloth will be considered something cowardly. Oh, you are like Like these type of statement are very common, right? Or bhanji style, bhanji type, you are wearing sari or suit, or you are bhanji type, they consider them very cowardly people, that we are wearing exposing clothes, we are bold. So that is a whole distortion of society because of accepting the wrong role models. So coming to the point here, what Krishna is saying, whatever action a great man perform, the common man follow. And whatever standard such person sets, all the world pursues. So we should be acting as example, a role model for others. And to the extent the kings, the leaders, they set an example, people's life will be molded accordingly. So one may say that, okay, what is exactly exemplary behavior? So here we should understand the scripture should be recognized as the standards and leaders should follow that. To set an example, it should be acting based on the direction of scriptures. So setting an example is actually the responsibility of everyone. All of us in some role are leader for somebody. Parent is leader for their children. A teacher is a leader for the students. So setting an example is the responsibility for everybody, not one particular person. It's not only the prime minister of the country or the president of the country that they have to set an example. All of us has a responsibility to set an example to our circle of influence. If the father is telling the son, oh, do not drink, do not smoke, but the father himself is smoking, is the child going to listen? He's saying, oh, my father is doing this thing, so I will also do that. If the mother, father, they are having illicit relation, what are the children going to pick up? They say, oh, my mother married three people, leaving one, she went with another, then leaving that, she went to another. So my mother had many divorces. So it's a normal thing to have divorce. So that's why the culture of divorce is so widespreading these days in Western countries, because the children are saying, oh, my father, he married another woman, my mother, she married another man. So this divorce is a common practice. When you are not satisfied with your partner, give up and try to find somebody else. So if we want our children to follow particular thing, we need to set an example. If we want our children to practice bhakti, we need to set an example, right? If we tell our children, oh, you chant, you chant, you chant, and we ourselves are not chanting, is it going to influence the child? No. So we all also have responsibility. We can do our sadhana properly, our services properly. In that way, we set example for others. If we come to the programs, right, the temple programs, or so if we come to satsang programs regularly and we dress up properly, in that way we set an example for others. But if everybody thinks, oh, what is the difference, what difference it makes if one person just goes like that wearing the normal shorts and or jeans or pajamas and all, how does it make a difference? But no, it makes a difference. We all can set an example for others. So our, as a devotee, our example should be to behave in such a way that it can inspire others. And there is a very small story also on this, right? When we want to be a role model, we want to be the teacher, we want to ourselves also practice what we say to the best possible extent. We need to imbibe that in our own behavior also. A very frequently quoted example which is given is, once a woman, she brought her child to the sadhu. She came from far away. She came from her home, went to the bus stop, took the bus, drove for maybe 2 hours, then came to that place and came to the ashram of the sadhu. And told the sadhu, Babaji, my son, he eats too many sweets. And because he eats too many sweets, his teeth will have cavity and he will have many other problems. Please tell him not to eat sweets, not to eat too much sweets. And the sadhu, he told, please come 1 week later and then I will tell your son. So woman said, okay. So she went back, and again 1 week later, she again came all the way, taking all that hardships. And she told the sadhu, please now tell my son to give up some sweets. And the sadhu told the boy, my dear boy, you should not eat that many sweets. See, your mother is so much concerned about you. And the boy, actually, when the sadhu told, the boy accepted. And this woman was very surprised and puzzled. See, it was just a matter of you telling once to my son, stop eating too many sweets. You could have done that last week also. Why you made me come all the way again with so much hardship? The sadhu said, actually, when you came last week, I myself was also eating too many sweets. So when I am eating, when I am doing that activity, how can I tell others to not do that? So first I wanted to restrain myself. I want to practice myself. So in this 1 week, I cut down the sweets. I did not eat any sweets. And now I told your son also, please do not eat sweets. So be the teacher, not the cheater. It's not that we say something, but we do something else. Right? So setting an example. That's an example of setting an example. Now, text 22 to 24. Now Krishna says, he gives his own example, that I am doing the duties just for a matter of duty. So Krishna says, for me, there is no work prescribed within all the three planetary system, nor do I want anything, or nor do I have a need for something. Still, I am engaged in performing my duties. Because if I ever failed to engage in carefully performing my duties, certainly all men would follow my path. And if I did not perform my duties, all these worlds will be put into ruinations. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all living entities. So Krishna is saying, for me, there is no duty prescribed in all three worlds. So this is the first time actually in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna speak about his supremacy. So far Krishna has not spoken that I am the supreme lord. So here Krishna is saying, for me, in all three planetary system, there is no duty prescribed, nor do I want anything, nor do I have any need to get something. So generally, when we perform any duty or any work in this world, either we have some desire to get something or we have some needs to be fulfilled. But here Krishna says, I am free from all this. Right? In our case, either we have some obligation, we have some desires, we have some wants, some needs. Now, body has the need for food. If you are hungry, you need to get some dal roti, some basic food to fulfill your need. We have some need to put on some clothes for as per the season. If it's a winter season, we need some clothes to cover the body from the cold. If it is too hot, we need the appropriate clothes for the summer weather. So there is a need and there is a want. First of all, we need to understand the difference in the need and want. What is the difference in need and want? Anybody? So we'll briefly discuss this one and stop here, and we'll continue this discussion in the next session. So what is the difference in need and want? Yes, Karuna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, need is our basic requirement without which we cannot survive.
Yes.
And want is beyond our need. Means our needs are getting fulfilled, but we have some desire for to achieve something. So that is want,
Yes.
which is beyond our
Very
needs.
good. Can you give one example?
Like we work to maintain ourselves. Okay, that is our need because we have to maintain in this world. After maintaining ourselves, we want to achieve more money or to achieve something more. We work more.
Yes. Okay.
That is
Good.
our want. We want some material thing. That is our want.
Good. Yes, we can be satisfied in a 2-bedroom apartment, but we want a 6-bedroom villa,
Yes.
right? So that is a
Either
need.
to show to someone
Right.
or to satisfy ourselves, our wants.
Okay. Anybody else?
No, Prabhuji, that's a basic need. She's correct. Want could be, you can push your want to, like, you want Rolls Royce and something, and you want a regular car. A regular car is to go to work, but if you want Rolls Royce and a Lamborghini and all that, one can just go forever. You never end it. It's a never ending story.
Yes, we can be our need to go to work, our basic need of transportation can be satisfied with a basic car also. But we want a luxurious car, right? That's a want. I want to have a Mercedes or a BMW or something. So need versus want. I will tell very basic example, which generally I tell the children also to make them understand the difference in need and want. So for the body, we need some food to maintain our body. And that can be satisfied, that need can be satisfied with basic dal roti, right? Dal chawal. But, and if we say, no, I want pizza, right? I can be satisfied only with the pizza. Only with pizza, my hunger will be satisfied. So that is not need, that is want. So it's not that you are hungry for food, you are hungry for particular food. Another example is we need the clothes to cover our body. So we can have a basic shirt, pajama, something, kurta, pajama, something. So our basic need can be satisfied. But the desire for branded clothes, right? I want this particular brand shirt only, this particular brand shoes only. That is like a want. So we need to understand the difference between need and want. I need this or I want this. So here Krishna is saying there is nothing that I need in this world, or there is nothing that I want from this world. But still, I engage in performing my prescribed duties. So in that way, one should act in such a way that one is just performing one's duty without any desire, without any attachment to the result. So coming back to the point here, Krishna is saying he is not obliged by any prescribed duty. And we are always in need of something. That's why we are called Deen. And Krishna is called Deen Dayal. Krishna is called Deenanath. Krishna is called Deen Bandhu. Because we are always in need of something and Krishna is providing those needs and wants. So in Bhagavatam, in 10th canto of Bhagavatam, there's a particular chapter when Narad Muni visits Dwarika and he wants to go meet Krishna. Where to find Krishna? So Narad goes to all the different palaces. So Krishna had 16,108 queen, and for all of them, Krishna had one palace. So Narad Muni is thinking where to find Krishna. He goes to each palace, and everywhere Krishna is present. And when Narad Muni goes to every palace, he see Krishna is engaged in various household duties. In some palace, Krishna is spending time with the wife and the children. In some palace, Krishna is um, performing the marriage ceremony of his daughter or son. So in that way, Krishna was engaged in his household duties everywhere. And Krishna has no need to do anything, but Krishna says, I also engage in performing my duties. Then people may not understand Krishna's position and they may blaspheme Krishna. They may say, oh, Krishna did so many wrong things. He did so many wrong things on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and he danced with the gopis and he did this or that. But here, the point is, when Krishna performs some activity, he performed those activities at 3 different levels. Sometimes Krishna performed the activity to set example for others. Some activity Krishna performed to show his supreme position. And some activity Krishna performs to please his devotees. So Krishna's activities are at 3 different levels, and we cannot imitate Krishna's activity. We have to follow the instructions of Krishna, not imitate what Krishna has done. Like we cannot imitate Lord Shiva's drinking of the halahal poison. We cannot imitate Krishna's dancing on the hoods of Kaliya. We cannot imitate Krishna's activity of lifting the Govardhan. But people want to imitate Krishna's activity of dancing with the girls. So before Krishna danced with the girls, with the gopis, Krishna subdued Aghasur also. Krishna subdued Kaliya also. Krishna lifted Govardhan also. So if you say, no, Krishna performed rasa dance with gopis, so I can also dance with other girls in the pub and casino, what is the problem? So first you try to do all other activities. Then you become qualified to perform that activity. But people just want to imitate based on their whimsical ideas. So Krishna perform activities at 3 different levels to set example, to show his supremacy by certain activities, and certain activities are to please the devotees. So his dancing with the gopis in Vrindavan is to please his devotees, all these gopis. And Krishna, when shows his Virata Roop, that is to demonstrate his supreme position. We cannot imitate Krishna's showing of Virata Roop. We cannot do that. So same way, we should not be trying to imitate Krishna's activity of stealing the butter or performing the dance with the gopis. So there are laws. When Supreme Lord is disobeying those laws, that is to show his supremacy. Otherwise, if the laws are bigger than Krishna, then the laws will be supreme, right? Not Krishna. So Krishna is bigger than those laws. And when we act, we need the laws to direct our activities. Otherwise, we'll be motivated by the selfish desires. So Krishna is saying in these verses, you just act to perform your duty without attachment and to set example for others. Because if Arjuna did not fight in the war, other people can take that an excuse and tell that Arjuna can leave the war or leave from his duties. I can also do that, and that should be all right. No. So you just perform your duties while situated in the right knowledge, in transcendental knowledge. So we'll stop here. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Okay, if anybody has any question, comment.
No, Prabhuji, one of the things I was thinking is Atmanev Atmanatushta. Same thing in Sthita Prajna, he uses the same term.
Yes.
So the way I think is like Shukdev, that you pointed out beautifully. Like Shukdev is another classical example, and some of the people, he's totally detached. He walks away. He even tells Parikshit that I don't have to tell you anything. My major concern, and I think is a point we have to understand, is that those who are self-realized have absolutely gone beyond any need and everything, and those are the ones who are called Atmanev Atmanatushta. we can't claim that we are Atmana Atmatushta. We are very far down to really say that. And then you pointed out very clearly that Krishna is beyond all three guna, all the three. He can be detached even in the worst. Maya doesn't affect him, and we are in the Maya. So we cannot even talk about it. We can pretend and ignore it and fool yourself, but basically, we are nowhere that Atmaneva Atmanatushta or like a Krishna situation. He's even beyond all the. He's the creator of all the gunas. So that's the way I understand it, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Yes. So there are so many different examples we can take from Srimad Bhagavatam based on different pastimes, different devotees who are completely detached, and they performed some siddhim, the perfection of life, by just performing their duty by taking one limb of devotional service. Now, you quoted the example of Shukdev Goswami. Just by speaking about glories of Krishna, he attained perfection. Parikshit Maharaj, just by hearing the glories of Krishna, he attained the perfection of life. Bali Maharaj, just by surrendering everything to the Supreme Lord, he attained the perfection of life. So, developing that detachment and in that way engaging in the vertical relationship with Krishna. So, basically, whatever our circumstantial occupations are, circumstantial dharma is, that need to be connected with the supreme dharma, which is Sanatan Dharma, connecting with the Supreme Lord. If we may be a father, mother, we may be a professional, we may be the citizen of the country, through all these different relationships, ultimately connecting with Krishna. Okay. Anybody else? Anything?
Prabhuji, one question.
Yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji, many times we get confused about our duties. We are not able to decide whether we should do it or not do it. So in that case, what we should do? We are in a dilemma. Means that clarity will come once we get purified by doing our sadhana, by doing our duties.
Yes. So that situation is very common. There is no easy way out of that. We will always have these conflicting thoughts, conflicting situations. Should I do it or should I not do it? What does Krishna want me to do in this situation? So
Yes.
we have to understand Krishna gives the guidelines through Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is like the guideline, a guidebook, not a dictating manual, right? So no scripture is going to tell us you should do this, and this, and then you can be free from all the conflicting situation. It's not like a manual tells very clearly you press this button, then you do this thing, then you connect this wire. So that is manual, which gives you a very step-by-step direction. But Bhagavad Gita is not a manual, it's a guide. Krishna shows us the different paths, different directions, and the pros and cons of different things. And ultimately, we have been given with the free will to choose how I want to conduct my life. Now, our mind is constantly speaking to us. Krishna may be trying to give us some direction from inside as the Paramatma sitting in the heart. Krishna is trying to show us some direction, but our mind is constantly speaking to us, telling, oh, you should do this or you should not do that. Now, how do we understand if it is the voice of the mind or it's the voice of Krishna? In our situation, most of the time it's voice of mind. Our mind is very powerful. Like Krishna's voice gets kind of very burdened up under all these different thoughts, buried under all these different voices which is coming up. As we get connected more and more with Krishna, then we can understand what Krishna will like me to do, what Krishna wants me to do. Even though we don't directly understand what Krishna wants me to do, then at least we try to analyze the situation if this is as per the direction of scriptures principally or not. So in principle, if it is as per the direction of scriptures or not. And if our ultimate goal is to please Krishna, right, that's the one parameter which we can see. If I do this particular activity, is that going to please Krishna or not?
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Means the clarity of duty will come by the time once we get purified.
Yes, clarity of duty will come with time, and we should be always focused about, if I do this particular activity, is that in line, in principle, with the direction of scripture, and is it going to please Krishna or not?
Okay.
For example,
Okay.
now there will be maybe two conflicting duties. Should I offer bhoga to Krishna at this time, or should I take care of my child? Right? So what do you do in that situation? So taking care of child is also important, because by taking care of child, ultimately you are helping the child to connect with Krishna if we take care of the child in a Krishna conscious way. So that is also important. One cannot say, oh, I don't want to cook for my family, let me just sit down and do my sola mala. So we have to connect through our worldly relation with Krishna.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, so Hare Krishna. I think we can end it here.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone for joining.